All right, welcome to our last Survivor Indianapolis Season 5 interview here. We have our winner, our champion, Maretta Nelson with us. Maretta,
Hey.
let's get going into your game. So, a winning game. I want to say it was like 7 to 4 to 1. I'm pulling it up right now. 7 to 3
Okay.
to 1. I was close. So you got 7 of the 11 possible votes. Obviously, a pretty strong win. And let's get into kind of what got you there. So early game, you're on the tribe out of the two with Shibwe that had lost the most and seemed the least. And it was 2 to 1. It wasn't like it was a landslide, but it seemed like Siakam was really strong, really united. They kind of had a consensus to vote off um, Bailey, and they didn't have to go to more tribal councils. Whereas you guys, your first tribal council was very, very split, and from there on, it
Yeah.
was kind of like always a little bit up for grabs. It could be anybody almost. It seemed like.
Yeah.
So, what was your strategy in those first few votes? Because you did not get. Spoiler alert, you didn't get any votes until the very, very end. So the fact that it felt like Chris could go at any moment, Mason got voted off early, Seth gets voted off early. What did you do you think that kind of helped keep you under the radar enough that nobody was targeting you, whether because you were too strong or because you were too weak?
Yeah, I feel like when I went into it, I didn't have any idea of what the game was going to be like. I had no preconceived expectations or anything like that. So I honestly went into the very first game and I was like, I'm just going to see how everybody else plays, try to kind of figure out what their strategies are,
Hmm.
maybe pick off some of theirs. I tried to be allies with everybody on my team within Shibwe, and I didn't try to say, oh, this person needs to go, or like, hey, we need to take this person out. I was more kind of the mediator, I feel like, oh,
Yeah,
why do you think that they need to be out? Or just kind of played it neutral. And I feel like that kept my name out of the the whole vote out
yeah.
first round.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot in the early episodes that have been released so far. I mean, obviously, when this comes out, they all have been released, but
Yeah.
from when we're recording this, they're not all released yet. So you definitely see, Mason has a lot of opinions.
Hmm.
Chris is having opinions, and people are trying to, get their vote off, and you're kind of just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely helped you early on. The first big, like, dramatic. I mean, obviously, even the first tribal council was very dramatic. It was a one vote difference between Anna getting voted off, who got voted off, and it being Cameron, who made it pretty far.
Hmm.
So it was dramatic from the beginning. But the Seth vote was one of those rounds this season that I was really caught off guard by the video footage because I don't really see a lot of that on the day of. I'm not able to be in the conversations and see what's happening. So to see that basically Mason pulled it together very last minute, that he pulled you aside on the way to tribal council with Seth like 3 feet from you guys and
Uh-huh.
said, "Hey, do you want to vote Seth out?" So talk me through that vote and your thoughts. Did you just like what made you say yes to that at the last moment?
So I felt like there were like Chris, Mason, Anna, like they were all very strong players,
Hmm.
strong opinions, and like they came in like with fire in their eyes. And then there were others like Seth and my
Sonia.
Sonia. Yes, there were some of them. My brain's a little fuzzy on remembering,
Yeah.
but that were a little bit more just kind of there for the fun of it and was just
Hmm.
like having a good time, but had some good input. And I didn't really know which way to like kind of go because I kind of went in a little bit blind. So I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to be the strong, like fire in my eyes side of it, or if I want to play like the weak link and just kind of play along and try to be
Yeah.
everybody's friend. Um, and so when Mason pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, we're all going to vote for Seth. Like, we need to get him out. Like, he's the weakest link." And I was like, "Okay." So I just went with it.
Yeah.
I was like, let's just do it.
Okay, so then you get the next round, we swap
Mhm.
tribes,
Yep.
and you get put on a tribe where it's just you and Mason from original Shibwe,
Mhm.
with ends up being 4 original Siakam people once Leah joins you, and all girls and Drew. When you first see this is the new group, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
I was a little bit nervous because we lost Chris and Sonia because we had talked earlier that Sonia seemed like a really like kind of passive player.
Hmm.
but she actually turned out to be kind of a more aggressive player. And I think that's because she went over with Yasum and had like
Yeah.
just over there on all of them. Um, but I was a little bit nervous when Drew joined, and then when Leah joined too, because I know that Chris and Leah, like they're married, so like obviously like
Yeah.
they have like their own language that they can speak to each other through, like from across the room. So I was a little bit nervous, and I know Drew is very competitive,
Hmm.
just from going to school with him and growing
Yeah.
up. So I was like, oh no, like he's
Yeah.
gonna like want to win, and
Yeah.
so that made me a little bit nervous. But
So you guys lose the first challenge, and you're
uh-huh.
able to vote off Mason. And
Mhm.
you, I believe, voted with Mason. Like you did not vote Mason off. Um, and then you guys have the next round where no matter what, both teams are going to tribal council with the axe throwing competition, and you win that. Did you feel like you had to win it, or was it just like a nice? Because like you ended up in hindsight, you definitely needed to win it. But did you
Yeah,
feel that pressure going into that challenge?
I did.
Yeah.
That was when we switched teams. That was the moment where I was like, oh, like everybody's taking this very seriously. I was like, I
Yeah.
need to step up my game and like try to figure out and stick to a strategy. So
Yeah.
I went into that axe throwing where I was like, I'm gonna aim and I'm gonna try to win this.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like, I mean, you never know what would have happened, but it
Yeah.
seems like that was potentially a game-saving challenge win. Then the next, well, on that round, Drew plays his idol. So it looks like in the video that, and so I'll kind of give you a chance to speak to this, but it looks like in the video that there's not a whole lot of especially the original Siakam people that were from Drew's old tribe that didn't really talk to him a ton. They started trying to plan around how can we vote him off with the idol? How can we play around the idol? And it seems like that kind of the fact that no one was really engaging with him a ton
Hmm.
made him feel like, well, I should just play the idol and then I'll
Yeah.
be safe. Um, so from your perspective on that round, you win the advantage or the challenge. You're good to go. Where you kind of just like, I don't really care what happens because I'm safe and they're all against me anyways. It seems like the girls brought you into that alliance
Mhm.
with like, Annie, Adrian, Leah, Annie, Adrian, Leah. I think it was just three of them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Annie, Adrian, Leah, and then Drew was the fourth. So were you kind of just happy to keep like flying low, or was there more that going on that round that we didn't see?
From what I remember, um, that was, I think I was just playing it low that round,
Hmm.
kind of giving myself a breather
Yeah,
because, and also trying to figure out the new people that came on to
sure.
our team, try to understand their strategy
Yeah,
and their plan because they could have been planning amongst themselves against our team to try to get the rest of the um, Shibwe team just like eliminated.
yeah, yeah. So you get through, and I think that's maybe from my perspective, it seems like you don't really have any reason to try to help them play around the idol. It seems like you should be going with the flow, which you did. Me and Alex just talked about that round pretty recently in the real time because that episode just came out and we were confused why they didn't do something more, I guess, to try to like make him feel safe.
Yeah.
But for you, it doesn't really matter because you don't need to make yourself seem like a threat,
Yep.
and because you're safe.
Yeah.
So if he couldn't, even if he wanted to vote you off, he couldn't. So okay, so now we from there we basically get into the merge and we get the returning players challenge and all this stuff happening. A pretty busy part of the game here with the swap and then 2 rounds and then the merge. So from your perspective, you get through the rest of this part of the game from two different alliances. One, your original Shibwe tribe, and two, this best class alliance that ends up carrying you four to the final four. So when did this alliance come into being from your point of view?
So it was about this time,
Yeah,
and Adrian had mentioned Best Class Alliance.
yeah,
Chris actually came up to me and whispered in my ear. He was like, "Hey, no matter where this goes," he was like, "Best class always." No,
yeah,
like so I have, even though he's on the other team, like he's still rooting for me, and I have people that are like not gonna vote against me because best class always comes first. Because Adrian was in my class.
yes. So that was before Chris got. That was before the returning players. So even is that even before Adrian got voted off? the first
Yeah.
time, or is that? Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay. So like it's interesting because everyone's memory is a little bit different. So
Yeah.
and it may have just been the kind of thing where, for different people, it happened at different times, or for different people, they realized it at different times, that it was a possibility at least, or an option for you guys. And you guys definitely played that to your advantage, and you played it as one of your many options because there was for you especially, not only do you have the best class option, you have the she boy option, and then you had the all girls option, or like a group of girls, and that seemed to work for you as well. So what what made you change your mind on Chris? So because here's from my point of view, here's what happens: you get on a tribe with Chris, and you're open to working with him, and then on the round that Seth gets voted off, you're pretty vocal that you think Chris is dangerous, he's a big threat, we should get rid of him. And Cameron wanted to do that as well, but I don't think he actually talked to you about it. And then Mason is able to change both of your minds to vote for Seth. And then at the merge, when everyone's all together, Chris is the person that goes, and almost everyone votes for Chris.
Mhm.
Even Leah votes for Chris in
Yeah.
that moment. And then he gets back into the game, and it's kind of like, oh, hey, we have this alliance option. So what changed your mind from like he's a threat, he has to go immediately, to being like he could be an ally, I should work with him?
Yeah, so I around this time I was hearing multiple different points of views. So some people were like, we need to vote Chris off because he's a threat. And some people were like, no, he's an ally. We have to keep him until the end, get all the weak links out. And then like I had a bunch of people coming in and out trying to, so I was a little bit confused at this point.
Hmm.
Like between this point and then the next couple of ones after this, I was always trying to figure it out kind of like on my own. And so I I can't remember who I talked to. I think it was Mason. I think we
Yeah.
decided to kind of like form an ally with each other because Mason and Cameron came to me and he was like, "Hey, I know you have this like girls like kind of thing going on with the girls, but like what if we were to make our own
Hmm.
like allies on this end and then we'll try to get the strong links out
Yeah.
instead of the weak links."
Yeah.
So, and I formed an ally with Cameron around this time too. And
Yeah.
so we were like, we're gonna vote Chris out. And then Mason was like, yeah, we need to vote Chris. So
Yeah. Okay, so you end up, Chris gets voted off, right? He's back into the game with Adrian. So you get both of these people, which is pretty wild, really, that the only two people that could have, because if it had just been you and Leah, you may have worked together, you may not have, but
yeah.
because all four of you that were a part of this best class thing from IBC, because all four of you were still in the game with like eight people left, you had the option to work together. But if Chris had not won the returning player challenge, or if Adrian had not won, then maybe that wouldn't have happened, and the entire game could potentially have been different,
Yes.
which is wild. And if you
Hmm.
even go back to like we've been talking with other players, it feels like the Neil vote off when they voted Neil off instead of Sonya, kind of could have changed that as well, because if Neil's still in the game, then maybe there's more options for the Siakam players to. So there's just several different ways that it was really close to going multiple different directions. So it was very
Uh-huh.
cool. But speaking of multiple different directions, by the end, you get to Final Four, and it is this best class alliance has made it to the final, made it all the way as far as you could go as a group because there's four of you, and one more has to go now before you get to the end. And you and Adrian end up voting off Chris here, but you did not want to originally do that. You realize, oh, Chris and Leah are voting for Adrian. They're voting against what they said they were going to do, and so
Yeah.
I should go against what I said I was going to do because they're not, they don't have my best interest because they're not voting the way that they told me they're going to vote.
Yeah.
So kind of like all of you sort of flip on each other all at the same time. But did you ever before that? Because we have a lot of video of Adrian saying that she was nervous that Chris might turn on her, and so she was saying, "Should I turn on him first before?" And she never did. Did you ever consider I might need to vote one of them off for my own game before Final Four?
Yes, I thought that I should vote off either Leah or Chris because I knew that they had formed an alliance with each other anyway.
Yeah,
And so I was like, if best class comes first, I was like, Adrian is going to be my ally in the end. Because at the end of the day, it's me and Adrian best class.
Yeah.
Where this was like, I'm with Leah and then I'm with best class. So it was like
Yeah.
I knew that there was always gonna be that kind of tier level. So I was like,
Sure.
Adrian's gotta be the one that's gotta stick with me. And that's where I was in that point.
Yeah. And of course he wasn't saying that, but it makes sense why he would go with his wife.
Yeah.
So what do you think, last couple questions here for this ending of the game. It's a very interesting moment because again, you won the challenge to kind of potentially save your life back rounds and rounds ago with the axe throwing. And then you win a couple other ones here and there. But you win the one at the very last challenge. You win this challenge, and it kind of forces Chris and Leah to have, if they want to work together, they have to vote off Adrian.
Mhm.
If Chris had won, he's the one that ends up going based off of the rock draw. If
Yeah.
Chris had won, who do you think would have gotten voted off there? So it's just
Probably
you.
either, yeah, probably either me or Adrian.
Okay, you think that they would have just picked one of you two,
Yeah.
and then I mean, I guess you and Adrian could have voted for Leah and
Uh-huh.
forced the rock draw that way, I guess. Do you think that they think they would have picked you over Adrian, or think it was kind of a coin toss?
I don't know. I feel like throughout the game, I wasn't presenting myself
Mm-hmm.
like in the way where I was like, I have a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never was like, oh, we need to do this because of this, and we need to do this because of this and this person. It was always like other people were coming to me and be like, hey, we need to do this and this, and I was like, and then I would give my opinion, and then
Yeah,
one way or the other. But I never presented myself with like my strategy or like my idea. I
sure.
feel like I wasn't playing a role of somebody who was kind of like a competition or
Yeah.
somebody who's like strong in the game and like needed to be voted off right then and there because they're like a threat to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know Adrian. I never figured out Adrian's strategy either. So I
Yeah.
don't know if we were kind of on the same level on that.
Yeah.
We were just kind of like going with the flow and like
Mm.
kind of piggybacking off of others just to kind
Yeah.
of like keep ourselves safe. Um,
Yeah.
so I feel like it could have just been a coin toss at that point.
Yeah. So you, in your answer there, you may have kind of answered part of this last question here. So the last thing I wanted to ask, because it is pretty impressive
Mhm.
to, so in Survivor, a perfect game would be that you never received any votes, and then you get to the end and you get all the votes. So you got 7 of the 11. So it's
Mhm.
pretty close, and you didn't get any votes before that. So it's not too far away.
Yeah.
So that's obviously pretty impressive. So what, and some of the things you just said probably are what you're gonna come back to here, but what do you think that you did to not ever get a vote before the end?
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, I think I just piggybacked off of other people and just kind of like went to group
Hmm.
and didn't really stick with one group or the other. Like if people were forming allies here and here, I was like, yeah, I'll form an ally with you. And I said I would, but then I was also open to like, well, if this person came up and said, well, they're a threat because of this, then I was like, okay, that makes sense. Let's go with that.
Hmm.
So it was like I was forming allies, quote unquote.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, I really was kind of just my own. I was like a chameleon, where I was
yeah,
just kind of blending in throughout the game.
yeah. And then we definitely see that. It seems like you wanted to be involved, but not vocal. It was
Yes.
like you were always a part of everything, but you were never the one like rallying the troops, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Uh-huh.
And so it was able to avoid that tactic was able to kind of keep people's eyes off of you because they wanted to use you
Yeah.
as a vote, right, instead of targeting you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think just a very, very obviously a job well done on overall for the game. I mean, 7-3 to 1, and any win at all is impressive. So congrats one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. It's been fun, and we'll look forward to maybe some all-star season down the line. We'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks so
Thanks.
much. Yeah.